beautiful Boston. Dennis Eckersley played here from 78 through 84, parts of 84, then finished his career in 1998. Our Sonic Knights matchup matches up the stats of Jeff Montgomery and Dennis Eckersley, and there's a lot to say here. First of all, Dennis Eckersley made 361 starts in his big league career, also saved 390 games. And Monty had a very long, successful career, 13 years, but put this in perspective, Eckersley's career began 12 years before Monty's, and he finished just 1 year before Monty ended. That's 24 seasons in a Hall of Fame career. And our producer, Casey Carter, set up a gem for this one. Jeff Montgomery, the Royals' all-time saves leader, sitting down with Hall of Famer Dennis Eckersley.
Well, Dennis, first of all, really appreciate you spending some time to come over and talk a little shop.
Yeah.
I know you love baseball. How many years have you been in the game?
Whew.
Counting broadcasting.
Counting broadcasting?
Yeah.
Almost 40.
40 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've seen a little bit of everything. You've seen a lot of changes. You've done a lot in the game, backing up from your broadcast career now, but as a player, you did a lot too.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of changing in my career because I started for like 12 years and then flipped into the bullpen, and right away I wasn't a closer.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of find my way, which is, ultimately you have to accept that, because if you don't and you fight it, it's not going to happen, and I didn't. And then, you got to be fortunate to be in the right team at the right time. And the A's were like on the cusp, weren't they? We had McGuire and Canseco. Were you right, ready to make a move? And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Seriously.
Well, and Tony La Russa was a great manager. He made a lot of, to me, great players even better. And I think looking at what you've done in your career, obviously all the wins as a starting pitcher, but then the chance to become a specialist out in that bullpen. To me, you were one of the first guys to do that, kind of that one inning thing.
Yeah, true.
And was part of that based on the amount of mileage you had on your arm?
I don't know. I really don't. I think that Tony is responsible for this changing the game.
Right,
you'd have to say, right?
Yep.
I mean, innovative to say the least. But it just sort of happened. It's just I threw strikes. That was part of it. It wasn't like Goose Gossage guys are coming in the ninth inning throwing gas.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't me at all.
Yep.
So I never saw myself as a closer, right? But it just sort of developed. And the next thing you know, we'd have, 2 or 3 setup guys and great starting pitching. That helps too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because everything falls into place. And then you're going to have to go 1 inning, a clean inning. There'd be times when I'd go 2, but he'd give me a heads up.
Yeah.
And that happened, 8, 10 times a year.
Right.
But ultimately, I mean, it was fit for me because, I was very aggressive. Not that I wasn't throwing 95 now either.
Yeah.
But I was intelligent. I mean, I had some educated cheese, as they say. You know what I mean? I could hit the corner and stuff like that. But I don't know. I kind of surprised myself, But it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And Tony's a big part of it.
Well, and I always tell people, I know in 2014-15, the Royals go back-to-back World Series. And in part because of the lockdown bullpen they had. If they were winning or tied after 5 or 6 innings, essentially the game was over. And that's the way it was with you guys back in those late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I say, this is not the first time this has happened. A lot of people credit the Royals for really kind of changing the way teams build their bullpens now with all the specialists. But really, you guys did that, a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so too. But the difference I see is great starting pitching.
Yeah.
It made the game a little smaller, 7, 8, 9 instead of earlier, like you see today, right? I mean, it's like you got to have 8-man bullpens, and everybody's going 1 inning. So it's come to that, right? 8 guys in the bullpen, everybody gets a clean inning. And clean inning is the way to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you know how tough it is.
Yep.
And I think how tough it is to be a setup guy. You know what I mean? I never came in to face 3, 4, 5 in the lineup, right? I came in to whoever was up at that time. And if it was a tough left-hander, if Brett was coming up, get Honeycutt in here and let him get him. So it made my job that much easier. But,
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned George Brett. You're on the hill now. You got bases loaded and 2 outs. Okay, 1-run game in the 9th, and George Brett comes to the plate. take us through what you would like to. How would you like to? I know you want to see it out.
Of all guys, I mean, that guy's the toughest. That's the guy. They asked me who's the toughest hitter.
Really?
That's the guy.
That's him.
Yeah, and I told him one night. I mean, we were at the Hall of Fame. We were talking. And he never really liked me because I'd be pointing at him and stuff. You know what I mean? And I said, hey, you know, they ask me that question all the time, George. You know, who's the toughest out? And I said, you, George. And ever since that time, hey, yeah, guys, you know what I'm saying?
He likes you now.
But anyway, with the bases loaded, George, how are you going to get him out? He has to get himself out.
Well,
doesn't he?
And that's people ask me the same question. I always say Harold Baines, who just won it this year.
Yeah.
Same thing. In fact, I remember a game, and you may not remember this game. Tony La Russa actually reminded me of this game. It was actually in Oakland. You had a string of like 50-some consecutive saves.
Jeffries.
Greg Jeffries gets a base hit
Yeah.
to give us a lead. I go in the ninth to close out the game. Harold Baines hits a home run walk-off piece.
Yes.
And you got the win.
Yeah, I remember that. I really
got
do.
The win. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Tony reminded me of that. And I was like, holy cow. And that's because, I said, and I promise you, the first person in the A's locker room, the media went to talk to was Dennis Eckersley. I know they were the first. I was the first person at our clubhouse.
That's the biggest part of the job.
Well,
it's, you know, they expect you to save ball games.
Yep.
The toughest part of the job, and they talk about turning the page and all that, is giving it up.
Yeah.
And God knows I gave it up. You know, and you know, I'm sort of, now that I sit here, I'm sort of proud how it all went. You know, how I handled it. You know, because maybe I wouldn't have handled it if I was in my 20s.
Right.
You know, but I was in my mid-30s.
Yeah.
You know, and the game had been so good to me. I mean, that's part of it. You have to be able to handle that, and it's hard for these guys nowadays, you know, to give it up and to come back and get the ball.